In 1835, the central provinces of British India were a maze of dusty trade routes, monsoon-swollen ravines, and dense sal forests. Travel meant constant peril. Caravans, pilgrims, and revenue officers moving between Jabalpur, Saugor, and Nagpur operated under the shadow of theft, ambush, and a terrifying rumor. Bands known in bazaars as the Thugs, accused of strangling travelers with a rumal, a kind of handkerchief, and burying the bodies in shallow pits. Local magistrates reported mutilated corpses and missing pilgrims, while newspapers in Calcutta and Bombay ran horror-stained accounts that stoked public panic and political pressure. The East India Company, which managed revenue, communications, and imperial order, equated public safety with administrative legitimacy and demanded decisive action. In 1835, the company formally tasked Major General William Henry Sleeman with suppressing what officials called Thuggee and dacoity across the central provinces. Sleeman, a veteran of the Bengal Army, was charged with tracking clandestine bands, recruiting informants, and coordinating police detachments. His mandate mixed law enforcement with imperial politics, restore safe passage on the roads, protect commerce, and demonstrate the company's capacity to govern. What began as routine patrols became a full campaign against a hidden violent network, setting the stage for arrests, trials, and a far darker unmasking. Sleeman moved from issuing orders to taking action in the winter of 1835, assembling a disciplined network of magistrates, native police, converted convicts, and local informants across the central provinces from Jabalpur to Saugor and Nagpur. He issued circulars to district collectors, posted rewards for information, and stationed detachments along known caravan routes where reports involving strangulation with the rumal clustered. Beginning in mid-1836, his teams arrested suspects taken from villages, bazaars, and river ghats, and transported them to jails in Jabalpur and Saugor for interrogation. Subscribe. Maybe it would have saved them. During rigorous interrogations conducted by British officers and sepoy constables, several prisoners made detailed, grisly confessions in 1836 and 1837 describing a recurring pattern: approach in gangs, feigned friendliness, seizure, the ceremonial application of the rumal to choke victims, the stripping of goods, and burial in shallow pits or disposal in ravines. Those confessions named leaders, travel routes, safe houses, and a claimed devotion to the goddess Kali as moral cover. Sleeman staged on-site reenactments. Prisoners led officers to the exact ravines, demonstrated knotting of the rumal, and showed where bodies had been hidden, turning hearsay into demonstrable crime scenes. The choreographed reconstructions were photographed in reports and quoted in depositions that reached the courts and the press, recasting scattered accusations as an allegedly organized conspiracy rather than isolated highwaymen. That shift escalated the case from local policing into a political crisis for the East India Company. No longer merely thieves to be punished, the thugs were depicted as a covert, ritualized network requiring sustained legal machinery, and Sleeman's campaign gained both authority and resistance as it moved toward larger sweeps and mass trials. Between 1836 and 1838, Sleeman scaled the operation into a coordinated cross-district dragnet. He linked magistrates at Jabalpur, Saugor, and Nagpur with detachments sent to Banda, Rewa, and Hoshangabad, and he instituted standardized procedures for evidence: sworn confessions, scene reenactments, catalogs of plunder, certified translations, and clerks' depositions prepared for the sessions courts. He issued circulars in late 1836 and through 1837 ordering collectors to map suspected routes, placed bounties for rumal testimony, the rumal being the scarf used in strangulation, and formalized pardons for convicted men who turned crown witnesses to build prosecutable chains of association. That professionalization produced gruesome documentary proof used at the Saugor and Jabalpur sessions in 1837 to 1838. Reenactments at ravines, exhumations of shallow graves, skeletons, and tattered garments tied to confessions. But it also exposed sharp complications. Many zamindars and district officials resisted arrests when their own servants or caravan escorts were implicated, sheltering suspects or obstructing searches. Linguistic and cultural barriers slowed and distorted inquiries. Hindustani, Marathi, and Bundeli depositions passed through sepoy interpreters and Persian clerks before reaching English records, and ritual references to Kali, caste sanctions, and localized criminal customs baffled British magistrates. Ethical doubts multiplied as defense counsel and skeptical company officers questioned the reliability of confessions taken in custody and of informants incentivized by pardon. Some testimonies contradicted one another, and some reconstructions sounded like coached performances. By 1,838 critics in Calcutta and commentators in London were asking whether Thuggee described a coherent cult or a convenient legal label for diverse highway robbers. Sleeman consolidated the files and responses into the 1,839 report on the depredations of the thugs to answer those doubts. But the report sharpened controversy even as it set the stage for mass trials and the violent crescendo that followed. By 1838, Major General William Henry Sleeman shifted from targeted raids to mass roundups across the central provinces. He ordered simultaneous sweeps from Jabalpur to Saugor and Nagpur that packed district jails with suspects. Detachments combed caravan routes, river ghats and sal forests in Banda, Rewa, and Hoshangabad, arresting men whose names had surfaced in chains of testimony built under Sleeman's circulars. Investigators stitched together testimonial chains, pardoned approvers, convicted thugs offered clemency, identified accomplices, safe houses, and ritual practices. These converted witnesses stood in open court, pointing out accused men while magistrates read aloud confessions taken in custody. The material evidence was grotesque and specific. Rumels demonstrated knot by knot. Exhumations in 1837 and 1838 produced skeletons, tattered garments, and fetid soil logged in magistrates' registers. Lists of plundered coins, bracelets, and rosaries were entered as exhibits at the Saugor and Jabalpur sessions. The sessions courts in 1838 and 1839 became theatrical arenas. Sepoys escorted shackled defendants. Hindu priests and Muslim witnesses testified about alleged devotion to Kali, and British judges struggled with translations and the legal admissibility of custodial confessions. Each conviction made headlines and triggered appeals that tested colonial procedure. Could a chain built from approvers and reenactments justify a capital sentence? Guilty verdicts multiplied and executions followed. Hangings at jails and summary sentences recorded in the 1839 report on the depredations of the thugs, turning grisly proof into state spectacle. Executions validated Sleeman's methods for some officials and inflamed critics who accused the administration of constructing a monolithic cult from disparate highway robbers. The growing docket, the public shame of pardoned killers turned witnesses, and the death sentences pushed the campaign toward a violent climax. In 1839, Sleeman published the report on the depredations of the thugs. The title page carried his name and the East India Company imprimatur, and copies were sent to Calcutta, London, and district magistrates. The report did two things at once. It gathered grisly confessions, reenactment transcripts, lists of plunder, and exhumation registers from Jabalpur, Saugor, and Nagpur into a single procedural manual. And it turned those materials into a public legal narrative that justified the mass trials and executions of 1837 to 1839. By systematizing the Rumel technique, approver testimony, and the forensic practice of digging up shallow graves, Sleeman converted scattered horror into admissible evidence and a repeatable policing doctrine. The verdicts that followed, convictions in sessions courts and sentences carried out in jails, gave the report teeth. Arrest networks unraveled, safe houses were exposed, and organized gangs in the central provinces lost their cohesion. For the East India Company, the report was both a rhetorical triumph and proof of governance, an imperial narrative that the state could detect, prosecute, and eliminate a murderous secret cult. a claim that shaped the campaign's political aftermath. After Sleeman's 1,839 report on the depredations of the thugs, the campaign's gruesome evidence led to new policing and intelligence methods. Informant networks, the approver system with pardoned witnesses, standardized reenactments and exhumations, and bounties that turned local knowledge into prosecutable chains. Those techniques set legal precedents in colonial criminal justice, including the admissibility of custodial confessions, sessions court procedure, and the broader use of capital sentences, reshaping how the East India Company governed violence. In Britain and Calcutta, the public devoured lurid accounts in newspapers and lectures that made the trials a macabre spectacle and increased appetite for imperial order. Later scholarship, notably the work of Kim A. Wagner, has disputed Sleeman's claims about scale and the coherence of a single Thuggee cult, arguing that colonial administrative needs helped shape the narrative. The legacy is both procedural and contested, policing innovations born of violence, and a historical record that still demands skeptical reading.